We've covered a lot of terrain this weekend, so let's see what we have. The presence of enlightened nature, also known as Buddha nature, and God is already all over us. The fact that the body is alive, pumping blood, that there are all kinds of signals, thinking processes, remembering things, all that is already a sign of divine power, of love. So if we know what to look for, if we know what we are looking, we don't need to seek far. All the answers are readily available. God is already in us. The inner guru, secret guru, is already in us. And not only in us, inside us, but each one of us. There is the deluded sense of self, and there is selfless self, pure self. There are the distortions with personality, with psyche, and there is the pure psyche. God represents, and thirdly, there is a body with illnesses, and there is healthy body. To quickly characterize all three bodies, causal, astral, and physical. And the presence of God is the purity of all three. Perfect nature in all three bodies, and makes a whole. And what I meant yesterday, I briefly mentioned that I think that in some sense the concept of God is more advanced, more evolved, if it is understood in correct way. It is more advanced concept than the empty nature of the Buddha. Because God is pure, God is selfless. The experience of God is completely selfless, without any type of distortions or mistakes, faults, delusions, problems. And it is completely, entirely personal. Entirely personal. This point is not really, I haven't seen, at least during my many years of study, I haven't seen it said in Buddha Dharma. But it is completely personal. It has everything to do with each one of us. It has everything to do with the pure psyche, the sense of self, me, I, which is what the Hindu Dharma points to. True self, Atman. But then in Hindu Dharma there is the problem that it gets entangled because there's no real clarity from wisdom, from non-dual wisdom, from emptiness of self. So it gets distorted. But we have, on this retreat, we have a bunch of people who have finished the whole Bhumi side, the path of wisdom and clarity, have finished emptiness meditation. So, and people who have significantly evolved in emptiness meditation. So it's very easy, exceptionally easy to understand the beauty of God, our likeness with God, our sameness with God. And this, I think, is unique historically, very unique, which kind of, I have said it for years I have felt that Buddha Dharma was brought, or it was an attempt to fix the persistent problems in Hinduism. But then it developed into its own religion, and the same old problems in Hinduism remain to this day. While then, on the other hand, in Buddhism there is, let's say that it would have been a beautiful marriage to put together Buddha Dharma and Hindu Dharma, which is what we have done in Amrita Mandala. But we are also taking it a bit farther than that, with understanding of psychology, specifically understanding of trauma and healing of trauma, what it is, how it is done. And also connecting our experience with God, with this concept of God, which is not, again, I'm not talking about the God according to the Christian definition, I'm talking about God without religion. This utter purity of each one of us, utter purity and radiance of all beings, all life, everywhere, but that it is entirely personal to every one of us. It is not outside of us, it is our very skin, bones, heart, pumping of blood, thoughts, feelings, our energy, and our persona. That's what God is. And likeness or sameness is God when we experientially align, realize, become God-like. I don't want to say become God, because to avoid the misunderstanding, if we believe in the view that God is like this great being who controls you and everybody else and life in all kinds of forms, then it is very dangerous to say that with enlightenment we become God. It is not like that. It was never like that. There was never a God like that. It's a completely wrong idea and very misleading idea. Very misleading belief. And again, maybe some of you, despite of despite of having been baptized into different different types of Christianity, and having been influenced by Christian ideas, maybe some of you don't have. Maybe some of you can relate to Buddha nature personally, can invite the blessings of our Buddha nature. But in my personal experience, you may feel the same or you may feel different, but personally to me, God is easier for me to understand and to approach. It's more personal from the perspective of approaching God also and praying to God. It feels like when I pray to God in different ways for different things, there is an immediate response. And it's beautiful to experience, because I'm not praying to a God or a being that is outside of us, but I'm talking to my own enlightened nature. And there's an immediate response, always. That's the beauty of it. I know that I haven't yet attained full enlightenment, full alignment with this pure nature, with God. So that's why, for me personally, like I think for you also, there is a need to do something about it. And praying to God, talking to God, and feeling the response, most of the time in the form of energy, beautiful energy, but sometimes in the form of words, sentences, dialogues is what follows. And what comes out of this, what always comes out from authentic Dharma practice, sometimes, yes, we can have rough patches, dark night times, but in general it can be said that clarity and peacefulness in us increases over time. I'll say that again. If we practice authentically, clarity and peacefulness increases in a practitioner. The reason why I mention this is because I just said that when I pray to God or when I turn to gurus, that sometimes there can be exchange of words, there can be dialogues. And this is something that I rarely mention, but this is possible. And I know that a number of my students, this happens. But the reason why I don't talk about this is because there are so many people I've heard from my guru Sivakami, as well as heard through the grapevine, that people start imagining things, fantasizing about things, believing things, and believing that they are talking with God or gurus when in fact they are talking with their own imagination or some other things. This is why I said that if you receive an advice in the form of words or even have a dialogue, it will still increase the clarity and peacefulness in you. There will be no disturbance with normal daily life. You won't suddenly do drastic life choices from having such a connection. And there is no exception to this. But what is really, whether there are words and sentences exchanged, what is beautiful is that it is not from the perspective of a practitioner. It is not necessary, actually. Same is just like in Guru Yoga, in God Yoga, the heart essence is all the time transmitted, in silence too. It's beautiful, soft, healing, stabilizing, incredibly loving and joyful, and definitely also playful silence. It's not dead silence, right? So full of life, like a healthy forest, healthy nature. And something that is, well, I think many of you already know this and understand this, but it is not it's probably necessary in the beginning of one's practice to have some understanding, of course, what you're asking, what you're praying for, and how to pray, what to say. But we shouldn't be stuck with the view that we have to be praying and asking like begging, or even doing something like begging. We don't need to do that. We need to be sincere. Our heart and attitude needs to be in the right place, but we don't need to become beggars. In some forms of spirituality and religion, they say that we are never worthy and that we need to keep, we are always sinners, there's always something bad in us, wrong with us, and that we need to keep begging for God's or Guru's approval. No, 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 no. That's just adding to the problem. That's completely misleading. If and when there is love in us, that is the love of God. If and when there is kindness in us, it is the kindness of God. When we use our wits, our logic, our intelligence, that's the wits, logic, and intelligence of God. It's already all over us. So most importantly, just recognize and feel. Feel with your whole body, with heart, with head, even in fingertips, perhaps even in nails. Feel in your gums, in your teeth even, in your bones, marrow, soft tissues, the presence of God. And this turning attention to this natural purity, spontaneous presence of God is already praying to God, revealing our God-likeness. And then, like I always say, if it is too subtle, you feel that it is so subtle that you're not getting it, then ask, just like you ask gurus. Beloved gurus, please make your blessing stronger. Beloved God, please make your presence stronger that I can really feel it. That it will wash away, remove all doubts. God's presence and grace and love touch those parts in the psyche, in the astral body, where it isn't yet, where it isn't felt yet. May God's love shine through every one of us. May God's light shine through every one of us. the charge is still felt. So to come back to where we started on Friday evening, feel the charge and feel that there is a pressure or a push in that charge. It pressurizes our bodies, it pushes through our bodies. What is that push? What is that pressure? Just like with gurus in Guru Yoga, same can be felt, and it is the willpower of the gurus, in this case the willpower, power, force of God. And then if I ask you to, you can recall to Friday evening with the dynamic concentration without shouting, like a 40-50% dynamic concentration, focusing on the body. Remember that sensation, how it felt. Or remember any, when you have done concentration practices, remember how concentrating feels like. Not how it feels after, but how it feels during focusing. And then compare the memory from Friday or from other time with this push, this pressure. Compare the two. Compare your concentration, your willpower with God's. And we can see that essentially the two are the same, have same quality, exactly the same function, although of course it depends whether we are using for what purpose we are using our willpower, our concentration. But there you can see where our willpower, where it originates. It originates in this pure nature of ours, God, our God-like nature. Alright, let's now lie down lie down for 15-20